Umang Vohra, the MD and Global CEO, joins us on the show right now. Umang, hi, morning. Let's talk about the India market first. What led, would you say, to the growth in India business? Because you've seen very strong trade generics as well. You think this kind of momentum is going to continue?
So we're hoping that at the end of the year, we will grow higher than industry. That has been what we guided for at the beginning of the year. And we're hoping that we'll end up with that at the end. Before I speak about the trade generic business, I also want to say that our branded business did really well by growing 13% in this quarter. The trade generic business grew 60% sequentially. It billed roughly the same amount of revenue as our business in the previous year. And this is exactly what we had guided to, saying that at this quarter we don't see growth, but we'll come to last year levels. And then in the next quarter, which is quarter 3 and quarter 4, we will hopefully see growth for the trade generics business.
Right. You've also spoken about branded business in India, which grew about 13% on a year-on-year basis. What led to this better branded business growth? Is it that you've altered something in the quarter gone by?
So we've looked at all our therapy areas, and all our therapy areas have done well. I think if you look at a chronic and emerging sector, that's done and that's grown at a respectable growth rate. If you've looked at the sector in acute, in our acute segment, that benefited because of obviously the season offtake. But we've also grown a lot, quite significantly in our respiratory section. So all our 3 segments have done well in India. And we've relooked at the way we do business, including distribution in the market.
In India, the branded business, do you think that the above changes that you've done in distribution or across therapies, do you think the branded growth will continue in coming quarters?
Yes, I do think so. I think that we are guiding towards the same growth that the industry would deliver in quarter 3 and quarter 4. And quarter 4 is a reverse seasonality quarter for India, but we are hoping to deliver growth both in quarter 3 and quarter 4.
To the US business, do you think that this 135 quarterly run rate is sustainable? Do you think the US business includes part of is as one-off?
It doesn't have a one-off, because when I look at the mechanics of all our products and their in the market, they all have competition, and competition's only increased over the last 3 to 4 quarters. The numbers do include revenues that we get out of Cinacalcet. It is reduced very significantly from what we reported in quarter 1, just the Cinacalcet portion. But now Cinacalcet is a good 5-6 player market. So it's almost reaching base levels. So the numbers include Cinacalcet, but I can't really, going forward, I can't really call it a one-off, because it is kind of highly genericized already.
Do you think the US business will see a growth if you exclude the one-off? Do you see the base business seeing further growth, Umang?
So we're hoping to show growth on a year-on-year basis, right? I think quarter 4 will probably not show that growth, because we had Cinacalcet in quarter 4 in the previous year. But other than that, we are looking at growth in the US.
In the US markets, do you think Cipla will see some new launches and that those will continue to drive growth, or that market share will drive growth instead?
I think more launches. I'm not sure that market shares will drive the growth in the US. I think launches will. And I think the launch trajectory for us, the meaningful launches will resume in quarter 4. And then from there, we'll probably see a limited competition launch coming up.
Right. Do you also expect the US markets are going to continue to lead growth for Cipla?
I think there is an opportunity for certain, but it doesn't come without its share of challenges. So I think Cipla is driving, obviously, to move the trajectory greater than the 125, 130, 135 number that we've been seeing. But obviously, it's highly dependent on the launches and the quality of launches that we are going to have.
Right. But your overall South Africa business has grown pretty strongly at 12%, and growth here is coming in after a long time. What, according to you, is the view on South African market? Do you think it can post better traction going forward?
Yes, I think our private market growth numbers are very significant. We've once again beaten what the market grows out at in South Africa. All markets have contributed. Our tender business has contributed. Our private market business has contributed. But a large portion of this growth is coming from our private market business, where I think we're growing almost 13% year on year. And on the tender side, I think the tender businesses have kind of rebalanced with the new tender that's come in. But even there, I think our execution has been quite significantly improved.
For the Indian pharma itself, do you expect R&D spend to increase for the industry? Generic drugs are seeing very strong price erosion, which will force companies to move more spend to R&D?
Not really. I think R&D spend is likely to stay in the same range as people begin to optimize investments in R&D. And I think people will want to drive productivity from R&D, which is probably going to happen.
And can you talk about the US FDA inspection at various large pharma companies? We're seeing overall a lot of escalation to warning letters. Do you think that Indian companies will need to invest a lot in facilities?
No, I think that to a certain extent there is some work that everyone needs to do to make sure that the sites are operating as per the requirement of the regulators, and to the extent that we attest quality for the patients. So a lot of us would be working on that. But I also think that the regulators have a very large role to play in making sure that the standards rise in the industry. And I think what Indian pharma is going through now is possibly the ability for us to move our standards significantly higher in the service of the patient.
Right. So when we last spoke with you, you said that pharma pricing in the US is cyclical and we are towards the lower end of the pricing pressure. What's your assessment on the situation now?
So we have not seen a much improvement. I think it's the same that we spoke about 2-3 quarters back. It's about pricing not really improving significantly, but pricing in the US always goes down. It doesn't go up if you're in a generic product category where there are 4 or 5 players. So we haven't seen the pricing environment improving significantly, but at the same time, it's not got worse.
Right. Okay, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out and explaining to us where really is Cipla's next move going to be.